Superheroes are fun and they have some pretty memorable powers. From super strength to laser beams and mutations, we know them all. Or do we? Turns out some of the most beloved superheroes out there have powers both us and them have completely forgotten about, so we're here to unearth them for you. Before we get started, be sure to race on over to the subscribe button. That way you'll be sure to catch the next great video from Screen Rant right away. Can you guess the film based off of these emojis? Stay tuned for the answer. Superman can time travel. Superman has been something of a polarizing character ever since he was rebooted into the current DC lineup. He's all-powerful but definitely has a few chips on his shoulder. A few years after Man of Steel hit the big screen, Supes was back, going up against none other than Batman himself and being caught up in one seriously elaborate plan from Lex Luthor. But for all his strength and superpowers, there's one that Superman has seemingly forgotten how to use over the past few decades. We are, of course, talking about his ability to travel through time. Talk about a handy skill set to have. But for whatever reason, it seems that the Man of Steel won't try spinning the Earth back again. When Lois Lane died in the first Christopher Reeves film, Superman flew faster than the speed of light, thus traveling back in time and changing the timeline. You'd think that a skill like that may have been used a few times since. Sure, we don't want Superman to spam that ability, that'd be a little unfair, but surely the Man of Steel has wondered about changing something or wished that he had. Here's hoping he has a good reason to do so in one of the upcoming Justice League films. Wolverine has night vision. There's no doubt that when it comes to raw strength and determination that Logan, aka Wolverine, is one of the deadliest superheroes out there. With his claws, healing factor, and animalistic nature, Logan is a natural hunter and fighter. But there's another skill set he has that he basically never uses. Like a good animal hunter, Logan actually has excellent night vision, much like a real Wolverine. We don't know too much about this particular power, but it has been alluded to in some of the films, specifically Origins and the Wolverine, but never explicitly shown in action. While Wolverine's sense of smell can largely guide him where he wants to go, Wolverine's night vision also comes into play every now and again. In Origins' opening, he runs through the woods at night with relative ease and later fights a highly skilled samurai in a darkened dojo in that film's sequel. It makes sense that Wolverine can see in the dark, but we wish it was a bit more obvious to us. We may have seen the last of Hugh Jackman in the Solo films, but if he should return to an upcoming X-Men film, which is set prior to the events of Logan, then perhaps we would get an awesome night vision scene. Electro can mind control people. Okay, not a hero, but still, one of the classic villains in Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery, Electro has been going toe-to-toe with our favorite web-slinger since he first appeared in comics back in 1964. Originally known as Max Dillon in the comic book verse, he quickly became Electro after he was struck by lightning when fixing a power line. Next thing you know, we have an electric-powered villain who has also become a member of the Sinister Six. While we know Electro is an expert at all things electronic, the shocking villain also has another trick up his sleeve. He can actually control people's minds. Thanks to his ability to manipulate electricity, he actually has influence over people's neurons and thus the ability to control the brain of any person. With all that electricity coursing through his body, it's theoretically possible that Electro may end up frying the person he's trying to control. But if he gets it just right, he may actually be confused as a telepath and not an electrical supervillain. Electro is all about directly attacking someone with his power and making use of electrical blasts. But he could actually end a fight much sooner if he just put his mind to it. Luke Cage is a human match. When you think about Luke Cage, whether it's the comic book version or the hit Netflix adaptation, you probably think of his impenetrable skin and superhero strength. But what if we told you he had a power that was actually more in line with the Human Torch from the Fantastic Four? In the Netflix show Jessica Jones, Cage's bar ends up getting destroyed with Cage inside of it. Naturally, he walks out without a single scratch on his body. But since he's impenetrable, he also walks away without any burns on his body. So if you think about it, he can actually start a fire with his body using nothing but some friction. Picture this. Cage is holding, say, a pencil or a regular stick you'd find outside. Now, if he were to slide the wood between his hands, the friction would ultimately cause a fire to start due to the nature of his skin. Think caveman making fire, only Cage's body is replacing a secondary stick needed to spark. If we were Luke, we'd keep a pencil handy and continuously burn up when the situation calls for it, although he may end up having quite an expensive clothing bill before long. Magneto can mind control people too. When we think of the X-Men, the resident mind controller is without a doubt Professor X. The telepath is one of the strongest mutants ever, being able to read minds, communicate telepathically, and freeze people around him. But as it would turn out, the Professor isn't the only one out there who can control minds. In fact, his arch-rival and former bestie, Magneto, also can use this ability. Where Charles' mutation is straight up telepathy, Magneto's relies a bit more on science. Thanks to the iron in our blood, Magneto can influence what a person ends up doing next by controlling the person from within. He may not have direct control over one's mind, but he ultimately can make the subject do whatever he wants. In the real world, this process can be done with magnetic fields and is called transcranial magnetic stimulation. There's your fun fact for the day. So instead of relying solely on magnets, Magneto could actually end his war on mankind rather quickly. Begs the question as to why the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants even needs to be a thing, since Magneto can do all the heavy lifting on his own. But we guess this supervillain actually forgot about this sciencey fact. CW's The Flash has a super brain. You might be thinking, no duh, when you just heard that. Of course the Flash is smart, he's actually Barry Allen, and he's a scientific genius. Yes, we know this too, but we're going beyond that right now. Barry Allen is the fastest man alive, as he so likes to remind us every week on CW's Flash show. But despite all his speed, Barry doesn't seem to use that noggin of his too often, especially when it comes to taking out some of his foes. Barry may run fast, but his brain by association can also operate fast, and our favorite speedster seems to forget that when he's running. We see glimpses of his brain power combined with his speed powers, such as the ability to read a book in seconds. But Barry still hasn't quite grasped that he can apply that very same power to the battlefield. We'd love to see this version of the Flash apply some split-second decision-making and show us how he made those thoughts a reality mid-battle. Talking to Cisco is great and all, but Barry needs to stop looking to others and figure things out on his own as well. Captain America has excellent eyesight. No, we're not saying Captain America's 20/20 vision makes him some kind of superhero. But we can't forget that Steve Rogers was given a super soldier serum that enhanced his body in many ways. We know that he got some super speed and strength out of the deal, but what else was included? Aside from fatigue resistance and enhanced resistance to poisons, Cap was given insane eye vision. Sure, all of Cap's senses got a boost, but it's eyesight that probably got the best of them all, while simultaneously being the most underrated. Pretty ironic, isn't it? Cap's enhanced vision actually allows him to process the world at a much faster rate, which makes him virtually unbeatable in combat and gives him an edge while on special missions. He can see clearer, sharper, and further than the average human. Perhaps that's why Cap always seemed to be the one cleaning out the Avengers Tower. But while we may be accustomed to Cap using his trademark shield and strength, he keeps forgetting that his eyesight is actually a thing, and that he should use it more often, especially with a certain Mad Titan to go up against in cinemas in 2018. Cap and his fellow Avengers will need every edge they can muster. Wonder Woman can talk to animals. Wonder Woman kicked up a storm in 2017, becoming one of the most popular and acclaimed DC films in recent memory. The film and character was totally awesome, with many of Diana Prince's powers being put on full display. But there's one power that didn't make its way onto the big screen. We all know that Wonder Woman has super strength that can rival Superman's and has the ability of flight in the comics. She also has the ability to communicate with animals. During Linda Carter's tenure as the writer for Wonder Woman, we saw that the titular character does in fact have this ability. The ability was also featured heavily in the comics. Because Diana was favored by her father Zeus and other deities, she was granted several superb abilities, including this one. In the comics, she is shown communicating with eagles, lions, and deer, for example. Despite being a pretty obscure and unusual ability, we don't think we'll see it take form on the big screen with Gal Gadot. As cool as it would be to see her command a lion in battle, it might be too out of place in the DCEU. What do you think though? Should our current Wonder Woman have this ability, or would it come off as too hokey? Spider-Man can communicate with spiders. Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. It was right there in the theme song all along. We're all familiar with Spidey's origin story by now. Bitten by a radioactive spider, Peter Parker is bestowed many arachnid-inspired abilities. These included the famous Spidey sense and wall climbing, which get coupled with Parker's own web shooters. But Parker has another wacky ability that he almost never uses. He can actually communicate with spiders. After the disassembled storyline, Parker gained the ability to talk to both insects and arachnids. He later used the help of these creepy crawlies in Spectacular Spider-Man Volume 2, in which they helped our web-slinger defuse a bomb. Ever since then, though, Parker has, for whatever reason, decided to completely forget about this ability. While we love that Tony Stark is making gadgets for him now, now in the MCU, we'd honestly love a stealthy intel gathering scene in a future film that relied on Parker using spiders to infiltrate a secure location. Heck, perhaps it can even be Thanos' own private bunker or something. Nobody is exactly walking through the front door of wherever he might be based at, so using spiders might make a lot of sense. Hulk can see astral projections. The Hulk continues to surprise us even after all these years. We know he's an expert at smashing things and that he has some pretty unexpected abilities, such as regeneration, super speed, and impressive lung capacity. But did you know that the Hulk can actually see astral projections? While in human form, Bruce Banner accidentally killed his own father, Brian. Despite being a man of science, Bruce is actually pretty superstitious and feared that his father's ghost would forever haunt him. This subconscious fear grew in the Hulk's own mind, and the giant green rage monster taught himself to look out for anything spectral-like out of conditioning. So the Hulk learned how to see ghosts and other beings in the astral plane. While there's no guarantee we'll ever see this power in the MCU, chances are higher now that Hulk and Doctor Strange will be teaming up in the upcoming Avengers film. It's possible that when Doctor Strange leaves his body, the Hulk will be able to see him and the two can come up with a strategy to get the edge on Thanos. Other than that, Hulk rarely gets a chance to use this unusual power, and it's been a while since he's actually had a reason to use it. Seeing it manifest onto the big screen would definitely be a treat for diehard fans of the Smash Master. That wraps it up for today. We covered some pretty unusual powers in this video, and we wanted to know which power you think should be used more often. Furthermore, is there a power that writers should just completely abandon and pretend it never happened? Let us know what you think, and be sure to give this video a good old like and subscribe to the channel for more awesome videos like this one added to your playlist. Thanks for watching, and the answer for the emoji question is nice. Did you get this one? Thanks for playing.